from the Beyond Unreasonable Doubt Studios, in association with Feitner Productions, it's Lay Down the Law! With your host, Billy DeClercq.
Hey, that's me!
Yeah, that's right, Billy, that's you. Featuring Doug Morency, Jack Mosshammer, Gary Pia, and Pia Smith. Only a madman would dare to bring these people together to build a world of law and order, only to tear it apart with laughter. That madman is attorney Billy DeClercq. The result is a podcast blasted to the farthest reaches of the internet. That podcast is this one, and it starts right now.
Welcome to Laying Down the Law, the only law and comedy podcast on the internet that offers rainbow sprinkles for free with every episode. Not available in all areas. My first guest today is a returning guest who needs no introduction, literally. Last time we really overdid it, his bio was the longest ever heard on this podcast and will not be repeated in full here. So, Second City, Drowsy Chaperone, Al Gore, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Young Sheldon, Big Bang Theory, The Middle, Mike and Molly, Conan, Jimmy Kimmel Live, and 50% of the Williamson Playboys, a law and comedy, musical comedy duo. He's all that and much, much, much more. He is Doug Morency.
Hello, everybody.
Next, she's a multiple-time returning guest on this podcast, a brilliant impersonator of our 45th president, a costume designer with 5 stars on Poshmark. She's a comic, improviser, actor. She's been with the Upright Citizens Brigade, Second City, Hollywood, and she can be seen on American Gangster, Trap Queens. Please welcome the multi-hyphenate talent, the hilarious Pia Smith.
Thank you for the warm welcome. Wonderful to be back.
Next, he's a financial planner and the owner of Mission Street Wealth Financial Planning. But not just that. He's also acted in plays, conducted pit orchestras, sung in rock bands, played the bass in a Beatles tribute band, although he's not a member of the actual Beatles. He's served on nonprofit boards, including the Pasadena Tournament of Roses Committee, and he's serving his 3rd term as the elected city treasurer of South Pasadena, California. His motto is, life is too short to live on only one side of your brain, and he is Gary Pia.
Hi, I'm the player to be named later.
Finally, he's an actor and performer in Toronto for the last 30 years. He's written, taught, and acted with the Second City Toronto, Second City Los Angeles, the Bad Dog Theater Toronto, Theater Sports, Humber College, and he currently teaches sketch writing, musical parody, and improvisation for the Toronto Film School. He's appeared in the improvised soap opera Train 48 and the improvised movie Man of the Year. His motto is, I really love improv. He is Jack Mosshammer.
Hey, everybody! Yay!
Well, welcome to the show. This is a law and improv podcast. For those of you listening on Earmark for the first time, some of you already know the drill, but what we do is we take interesting legal cases and we have some of the world's greatest improvisers come and get inspired by the law and bring their comedy. Thus, it's a law and comedy podcast. All right, well, I hope you all enjoy that product and or service, whatever it is. I'm sure it's a great sponsor and buy a lot of whatever it is. Today's case is Manning versus Grimsley. This is from the First Circuit, which is a federal appellate court. The year is 1981. This is an action involving the law of Massachusetts. A quick side note here. When you're in federal court, there is, federal law and state law. And there are 2 ways you get into federal court. One is called diversity jurisdiction, and it's not diversity in the sense that we generally understand it. Diversity means diversity of citizenship, meaning you are 2 different states. So if it's a lawsuit between people who live in Nevada and California or live in Toronto and Los Angeles, then it would be a diversity case. So citizens of a foreign country can sue in the courts of the United States and can be sued in the courts of the United States. They can't be sued in the state courts. So that's a little bit of federal constitutional procedural law. So this is a diversity action in which the law that applies is the law of the state of Massachusetts. The plaintiff claims that as a spectator at a baseball game, he was injured by a ball thrown by the pitcher. He sued for battery and negligence to recover damages from the pitcher and his employer. All right, I'm going to pause and I'm going to go back because Gary Pia just joined us. Hello, Gary Pia.
Hi,
Hey.
I'm the player to be named later.
I'm just going to keep this exactly as it is. We went ahead and got started because one thing I am is prompt. I've never been late for a meeting. And if you believe that, we're recording on April 1st, by the way.
Yeah.
I've also become a
Fool's Day.
Republican. The ice caps are not melting. I believe, let's see, what else? I believe that Donald Trump is the legitimate and rightful president of the United States. Yeah. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are listening at home, we've been joined by a money man, the man with the plan, Mr. Mission Street Wealth, Gary Pia himself.
Thank you, Billy. It's great to be here.
Thanks for coming. So,
I was making change, and that's what delayed me. So sorry about the tardy entrance.
it's no problem. It's no problem. I like the Bank of Change, actually. The Bank of Change is one of my favorite banks. I used to bank there for years. Basically, if you go in, you can take a $100 bill and they'll give you 100 ones, 25s, five $20 bills, whatever
25
you like.
$4 bills? Yes, they can do that too.
25 $4 bills. Yeah. Oh, those are good. Whatever you want. And, that's all they do is just make change.
Make the change you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. So the question here is whether there was a trial and the court said that the defendants couldn't be sued for battery. Now, battery is an intentional tort, meaning you hit somebody, not necessarily with a bat, although this is a baseball case. Battery just means a touching that is not consensual. So you can, the old law school trope is you could touch somebody with a feather. It's a battery if it's not consensual. Doesn't have to be particularly hard. Here, it was with a baseball thrown by a major league pitcher, so it was probably thrown pretty hard.
It's 80 miles an hour.
At least.
Not a feather.
At least if it was the Baltimore Orioles, it was probably maybe even 85. So the date was September 16th, 1975, in a professional baseball game at Fenway Park in Boston, between the defendant, the Baltimore Baseball Club, Inc., also known as the Baltimore Orioles, and the Boston Red Sox. The defendant, Ross Grimsley, was a pitcher employed by the Baltimore club. Some spectators, including the plaintiff, were seated behind a wire mesh fence in bleachers located in right field. Grimsley, who was warming up during the first 3 innings of the game, had been warming up throwing a ball on the pitcher's mound on the plate to a bullpen located near those right field bleachers. The spectators had continuously heckled Grimsley. On several occasions following the heckling, Grimsley looked at the hecklers, not just into the stands. He looked directly at the hecklers, apparently Manning being one of the hecklers. At the end of the 3rd inning of the game, Grimsley, after his catcher had left the catching position and was walking over to the bench, faced the bleachers and wound up or stretched as though to pitch in the direction of the plate toward which he had been throwing the ball. But the ball traveled from his hand at more than 80 miles an hour at an angle of 90 degrees from the path from the pitcher's mound to the plate and directly to the hecklers in the bleachers. It went through the wire mesh fence and it hit the plaintiff.
Wow.
Yeah. So he got beaned. The Court of Appeals said, unlike the district judge, we believe that he was an expert and he looked at the hecklers and he threw the ball directly at them. So we believe he intended to throw the ball at them. He intended to cause them the fear of being hit and to respond to the conduct because it was affecting his ability to warm up for the game. So this evidence was enough to conclude that he was guilty of a battery.
Guilty!
Guilty, absolutely. Yeah, liable. But that's not the reason why we're reading this case. We don't really care about Grimsley and throwing the ball at the hecklers, because this is a business law episode intended for continuing education for CPAs on the Earmark app. Thanks to my good friend Blake Oliver, who is hosting us on this app. We need to, in order for the accountants to get 1 hour of continuing education credits, we need 36.2 minutes of genuine legal content in a business law field. Battery, being a tort or a harm, is not necessarily business law. What is business law is the question of whether the Baltimore Orioles are liable for this intentional tort of their pitcher. Now, that's a question that CPAs could encounter in their line of work in a lot of different ways. I don't know how many times I've been balancing the books of my client, and they come to me and they say, can we be liable for this intentional tort of our employee? I say, well, the answer is it depends. And everything after it depends costs you $500 an hour.
How many hours?
It depends.
Oh, cha-ching.
That just cost us $500.
Whether I'm having a slow month.
Ask
right.
again. Ask again. Let's go for 1,000.
Here, the Court of Appeal, the First Circuit, was asked to decide whether the judge had properly dismissed the case as against the Baltimore Orioles. The case had been dismissed as to the pitcher and the Baltimore Orioles because the trial judge had believed that it wasn't a battery. But the secondary reason is that there's a concept called vicarious liability or respondeat superior, which is Latin for the boss is responsible. And when an employee commits an act within the scope of his or her employment, then the employer can be responsible, financially responsible to the plaintiff for the injuries or harms. So, for example, let's say you're a professional driver and you run over somebody in a crosswalk while you are doing that professional driving, then your employer could be responsible for the damages to the person who got run over in the crosswalk, because you're in the scope of employment, you're a professional driver. So the question here is whether the Orioles could be responsible for the financial harm caused by Grimsley when he threw the ball at Manning, or whether that was outside the scope of employment. So far, do you have any questions? You're very quiet.
Oh my God, tons.
Okay, well, let's stop for
Yeah.
questions, because you're so polite. Usually I get interrupted a lot.
I know, right? We're all
You're being
I
so
was usually-
polite, and
yeah. Well,
I'm
I think it's because
I knew.
it's so very technical and it feels almost kind of straightforward. But my
Mhm.
question is, okay, you keep using this term "can be." Well, you know, he can be. Can you be responsible? And I'm thinking, well, of course you can be.
Mhm.
So, and then of course here comes the depends and the hours of billing for you
Right.
to ping. But I guess I'm kind of like, in every job I've had, there are like codes of conduct where it's like, if I do certain things, I'm fired. So I'm just like, isn't intentionally throwing a ball and harming someone, isn't that just like, how is that their responsibility when I'm sure he's not allowed to do that?
Well, as we know, I mean, that's a good question.
Ooh.
The players'
Ooh.
contracts are heavily
That's a legal
negotiated.
question, but it's not a baseball question. Pitchers been throwing baseballs at other humans since they
Oh,
started
really?
playing the game.
Okay, see, I didn't know about that.
The brushback pitch, the chin music.
Oh,
That's all part of the baseball.
But I guess you could say in that the players involved have agreed that that's part of the game. These hecklers in the stands have not, never experienced that before, right? It's
Yeah,
not
they are-
usual.
I'm wondering about the
They're-
Red Sox liability for having a faulty fence surrounding the bullpen.
Now, you think like a plaintiff's lawyer. That's what I'm saying. You think like a plaintiff's lawyer. There's a lot of people you could sue. There are a whole host of...
Everybody knows that Jason Grimsley couldn't hit water if he threw it out a baseball out of a canoe.
okay.
Wow, it sounds like you were maybe sitting in the stands of Fenway Park once or twice. I'm not familiar with Grimsley as a player. Seeing as how I pay no attention to baseball whatsoever.
Yeah, I know
sounds like
nothing.
everything you need to know about
I was gonna
Grimsley's
say.
career.
I know nothing of this thing you call baseball. That's my
Baseball.
question. Could you explain the rules?
What is this baseball?
I am Canadian. If it is not on ice, I do not understand.
If there's no well, baseball is like this. Imagine that the sticks, the hockey sticks, are straight. They don't have a bend. And instead of ice, there's grass. Okay, and instead of a puck, there's a ball. And don't they have like penalty shots in where there's a so it's like a penalty shot, but the goalie is supposed to hit the penalty shot as far as he can down the ice, which we call grass. In the United States,
it's like
not everything's
lacrosse.
frozen. You know what it is? It is not like lacrosse at all. It's nothing like lacrosse, although the ball's approximately the same size.
And some of the letters are similar when you spell it.
Yeah, there's an L in both.
Let's complicate it further. Baseball doesn't have a clock. Who knows when a game will end?
Really?
See, that is something I didn't legitimately know about.
Baseball really can just go on forever?
It has no clock. You play the game until somebody wins.
This is so informative. Wow.
I kind of have to sort of agree with Gary a little bit. I think the fence is pivotal here. It's a faulty fence.
Mm-hmm.
The pitcher must have thought that the ball was going to hit the fence and
Would that be
stop
the
it.
stadium that's liable?
Yeah, I think it's the fence manufacturer. Why weren't they brought into it?
It's the manufacturer, or the manufacturer is going to manufacture the fence as requested or required, right? So if they didn't request a fence, that would, right.
Unless they're using substandard materials.
Right. Like if I'm Manning's lawyer, I'm going to be looking at the Red Sox. I'm going to be looking at their upper management, their maintenance crews, the products that they use to design the bullpen fence, because it's completely expected. If I'm
the
Grimsley,
ball manufacturer.
the ball manufacturer,
Yes.
yeah, it's just they make these baseballs too hard these days. Just go right through wire mesh fences.
I think we need to go after Budweiser because that fan was liquored up and didn't know what he was saying, harassing a Major League Baseball pitcher.
Those people have feelings.
No.
The bartender who served him the drinks.
Well, here's another thing. I mean, it was on the first 3 innings of the ball game. I mean, he was only getting.
We're talking about Boston fans, Billy.
Yeah, I mean, but this is the 3rd inning. After the 3rd inning.
Oh my God. Okay, wait, hold on. Are the cameras in the parking lot working? Because wasn't he getting liquor? Wasn't he pre-gaming?
He had to have been.
What's that thing called when you let he was tailgating.
Mhm.
And he came into the stadium inebriated. So it's not anyone's fault but his.
There's no tailgate in baseball.
Yeah, exactly.
And did he make fun of the pitcher's wife's appearance? That might have been it. He might have made fun of the pitcher's wife's appearance.
I'm quite
and
sure
so-
that happened.
He was talking about his mother.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing too, that I'm interested in is that there's usually, on the back of a ticket, or I mean, these days it's your ticket online. It's a, waiver of liability, assumption of risk that you walk into a ballpark and if you get you assume you might get hit by a baseball. And I think what actually takes it outside of that is that it's intentionally throwing the ball at a spectator might take you out of the assumption of risk because it's not negligence that we're talking about. It's an intentional tort, intentional battery being intentional. Like Grimsley intended to hit this guy.
Could have been just a really good curveball.
Yeah, exactly.
He was aiming at the plate and it just went 90 degrees the other direction.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting facts too is the fact that he sort of pretended like he was going to throw a pitch after the catcher had left. And then
A lot of people might say that's just typical Oriole pitching.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about baseball, but that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. How about this though? He was reacting. It was an emotional response to their intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Yeah.
He was being heckled.
Mhm.
So
Snapped.
interesting. Yeah. So
I think they all should have just got counseling.
Well, here's an interesting thing about intentional infliction of emotional distress is that it is typically required under most states' law that there be a physical injury
Oh.
in order to get liability for intentional infliction of emotional distress, because you can imagine why, if everybody who got their feelings hurt could file a lawsuit because they had emotional distress inflicted upon them, the courts would be even more backed up than they are. So we think,
I thought we were already there.
yeah, we're already there, but we'd be 10 times there if you could sue for hurt feelings. So you only get to sue for hurt feelings if you have hurt body. Although, again, as I said, a battery could just be, the lightest touch in the world. So I would have, I'm not sure that he sued for intentional infliction of emotional distress, but if he was a California plaintiff, he would most certainly have said battery plus IIED, intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Billy, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it like a number of different people are named in lawsuits just in case the first person didn't have enough liability to cover the amount of money that you're going after? So you keep going after sort of bigger and bigger entities to make sure that you get your cash reward?
Well, that's directly on the nose of one of the underlying policy issues in this case, right? Is that Grimsley may not have had that much money, but the Baltimore Ball Club had plenty, plus probably had a lot of insurance. And so if Manning wants to get, or Manning's lawyer wants to get a maximum recovery, you're going to want maximum number of defendants. And so Grimsley may have, given his career was probably over by 1981. This happened in 1975. He may not have had that much money, and, professional ball players are not known for their thrift and prudence. It's very possible that he didn't have a lot of money, and so the plaintiff really needed the ball club to be a defendant, because they would be the deeper pockets. So it's a practical matter. Yes, when you're the plaintiff, you typically want plenty of defendants for the economic reason. You want one defendant who is going to be viable, and if both are liable, you need one that's viable. And the other reason is that they might not all be liable. So, if he had just sued the club and not the pitcher, he may not have had liability. So getting the employer in there gives you multiple avenues of recovery.
So what were his injuries? Where did he get it? Where did he get?
Well, I like to tell all my guests who always want to know what actually happened and how bad was somebody hurt, that we're lawyers, so we don't really care how bad you got hurt. It's not the legal doctrine that's at issue here. We can assume it's serious enough that he was able to find a lawyer to sue for him, probably on a contingency. But we just,
not necessarily. I would sue even if, it just knocked a couple of braids out of my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You have more money than most people, because as I mentioned, lawyers are not cheap.
Right.
So lawyers don't take cases on contingency unless you have liability is basically assured, the damages are significant, and the defendant is able to pay. Those are the. I often tell my clients.
We really don't know what his injuries were. I know.
I really don't know, because it's not in the textbook, and it may have been in the case. The textbook is usually abridged somewhat, but the truthful answer is that we don't care. Because we don't know. Presumably it was bad enough, but in this case, there could be a pretty significant emotional distress injuries, that he was fearful of the ball coming to hit him, and that fear, he's traumatized, could never go to a ball game again.
How much fear could he have? The ball's moving fast. He didn't have that long to think about it.
Well, even a short period of extreme terror can be, Jack had his hand up, and so did Pia.
Yeah. I want to know if he was a fan of the Orioles and he was angry at their pitching choices, or was he from the other team that was playing that day and he was purposely there trying to psych them out?
The implication of the case, let's see, spectators.
Because usually, do you sit above the? Is it assigned seat?
I think they were. Yeah, I think they were. I think they were Red Sox fans. That's the impression that I got from the case. Although it doesn't specifically say.
So he hated his own.
Yeah.
Maybe he just wanted his attention, his love, and something from him.
Exactly.
So is that like a misguided crush thing going on here?
Yeah, he was trying to neg him. He's trying to like make him feel bad so he could pick him up later.
All right, so the court looks. Again, as I mentioned, I'm contractually obligated to provide 36.2 minutes of actual legal content, and I'm not sure if the preceding 10 did constitute actual legal content or not. I have no idea.
I think so.
But
I think with liable versus viable, that's got to be 10 minutes worth right there.
Yeah, that's pretty
Just
good.
that
Not
wordplay.
fit, you cannot commit.
We can hope we go into extra innings, Billy.
Exactly. Well, you got like I said, there are the 3 strikes of plaintiff's law. Liability has to be a slam dunk. Damages have to be big enough that taking a fraction of them is worth your time. And the defendant has got to be able to pay. You don't have all 3, then it's a strikeout. Or it's not a strikeout. Or it's a mixed metaphor. I have no idea.
What was the Harry Potter spell you said earlier? The ipso facto.
Oh, I said, I think
impressed.
I said a vicarious liability or respondeat superior. Oh, respondeat superior. Respondeat superior. Oh, I think that's a little.
Fling, a pile of money pops up.
I actually think we should I'll make a little mental note of that. That's a good one. Under Massachusetts law, if you want to sue an employer for damages caused by an employee, it has to be shown that the employee's assault was in response to plaintiff's conduct that was interfering with the employee's ability to perform his duties. So it has to be an interference that's in the form of an affirmative attempt to prevent an employee from carrying out his assignments. This is from a case called Miller versus Federated Department Stores. I don't know what kind of interference led to an assault within a Federated Department Store, and that case isn't covered here, and I don't know what kind of harm or injuries were in that case. The important thing is that the interference, in order for the intentional tort to be the fault of the employer, the employee must have been trying to do their job, and whoever was interfering with it was interfering with the job. So the question is, so the Orioles basically say, look, if you interpret the case of Miller, the heckling was annoying or insulting to Grimsley, but it wasn't conduct, quote unquote conduct, that did not, quote unquote, presently interfere with Grimsley's ability to perform his duties. So therefore, they were not liable. That's their argument. Is that he may have been annoyed by the heckling, but it didn't interfere with his ability to do the job of a pitcher.
Right, because this is the first time it's ever happened in the history of Major League Baseball that fans have heckled a pitcher.
That's not my problem. I'm stunned to hear that there was heckling going on.
Wait, maybe
You Americans are so violent.
I mean, this could have been the cruelest heckling that ever took place in public. I mean, this could have been traumatic for him.
It's quite true. I mean, the Manning family is well known for their acid tongue and their ability to really get under the skin of professional athletes. It's been a long lineage going back to the jousting in the Middle Ages. Manning was just, standing at the sidelines as Sir Lancelot.
You call that a lance?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and did you want to know what happened in Miller?
Yeah.
Oh, here's what happened in Miller. All right, so a porter whose job it was to clean the floors and empty the trash cans in the Filene's basement store slapped a customer who had annoyed or insulted him, the customer said, if you would say, excuse me, people would get out of your way. So
very timely.
Yeah, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court said the employee may have been annoyed by the remark, but that didn't justify imposition of liability on the store.
I don't know. That sounds like the person was standing there and the guy was like trying to sweep around him or something, and the customer purposely stood in his way.
Yeah,
because he said, if you just say, excuse me, I'd move.
I think the customer's right, though. clear. I mean, somebody says, excuse me, I move. They don't say, excuse me. How do I know what they're trying to do?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and this is the 70s, folks. This is 1973 in the Mullen case.
Having the trash can and the big broom in his hand made it kind of unclear.
How do I know?
Right, exactly.
Halloween.
The bottom line is you're allowed to sass people in Massachusetts in the 70s. That's the bottom line.
Legally.
You're legally allowed to sass people, and then when you get, get slapped, you can sue the person who slapped you, but you can't sue the department store.
And it was also Filene's, which, come on, there were balls in there on the daily.
Yeah, everybody knows Filene's is just a wasteland of.
Have you seen the prices? They're worth fighting for.
Oh my God!
The Filene's revival commercial.
Exactly. So Miller's case, the Miller case, Miller against Federated, says that a critical comment by a customer to an employee wasn't conduct. So that would interfere with the performance of work, but the court says that's distinguishable, meaning we can tell the difference and we're going to go a different way. That's distinguishable. Constant heckling by fans at a baseball park would be conduct. And so therefore, the jury could have found that conduct had the purpose to rattle or had the purpose to rattle or the effect of rattling the employee, so he couldn't perform his duties of pitching the ball successfully. So they could have found that Grimsley's assault wasn't just retaliation, but it was a response to the continuing conduct that was presently interfering with his ability to pitch in the game if he was called upon to play. Remember, he hadn't been called in. He was just warming up.
Oh.
So the end result is that the battery count against the Baltimore Orioles should have been submitted to the jury. And so it gets sent by the Court of Appeal back down to the district court, and in order for the jury to consider whether or not the Orioles would be liable for Grimsley throwing the ball at Manning.
There you have it.
Yeah.
There was an issue that Baltimore had to defend themselves over in a court of law.
Well, they had to convince the jury. So, the whole judge and jury strategy, right? If you can get it thrown out on the law, it goes to the judge. But if it's going to be the facts, then it's got to go to the jury.
Okay, didn't know. Okay.
In a trial, the judge is the one who determines what the law is and how the law applies. They have a limited role with respect to what the facts are. But if there are disputed issues of fact, then those are the province of the jury generally. So questions about whether or not something was reasonable is a factual question under the circumstances. And, is that what we think is reasonable conduct? That's the role of the jury. The judge is supposed to instruct the jury on what the law is, but not take the place of the jury to determine how to apply the law to the facts. And so that's why you have burdens of proof and things like that. Can you prove the facts to meet these tests? Like a tort like battery has factual elements you have to prove in order to get a result. So it's like a recipe to make pumpkin pie. You need the pumpkin, you need the sugar, you need the milk, you need the nutmeg. And if you don't have all those ingredients, you don't have pumpkin pie. And so the jury's job is to determine whether they made the pumpkin pie or not. The judge's job is to tell you, you need to have these ingredients to have pumpkin pie.
Got it. Oh, wow.
Now I want pumpkin pie.
Totally.
I want pumpkin pie made by a judge.
Yeah.
And decided by a jury. Yes, that is a pie.
Exactly.
And pumpkin at that.
Pia, what are your questions?
I mean, I know we're only talking about this one specific case, but surely this has happened many times since this incident. Is there now a law on the books? Pardon?
Or before. I'm surprised. The 90s, what is it, the 80s this happened?
The incident was in 1975. This case was in 1981. It took 6 years to get here.
Must have been people throwing bottles before then.
Yeah. even in Little League. I mean, this has got to happen at least one in every 10 ball games.
I think that's an interesting side note. It's I think this may have influenced what you put on the back of a ticket stub. I would just add, not only might you be hit by a fly ball or slip on, a wet floor, but you might also be, might actually just have someone intentionally throw a ball at you because you're irritating. Just put that. That's the irritation disclaimer.
Thank God for digital tickets. There's much more room in order to put these.
Oh my God, go on for hours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they were long before, but COVID made them like 10 times as long.
I can't find my sheet. I don't have enough bandwidth.
Yeah. And you have to now they have these COVID waivers. You have to sign like, I agree, I could get a deadly virus, but I want to see, I want to see James Taylor. So who cares?
You deserve a deadly virus.
Where's the hatred for James Taylor?
Oh my God.
You rock and roll.
I didn't even know he played baseball.
That's right. He can't go to his right anymore.
Oh God.
And then I'm so curious. Back to was it the Miller case in Filene's where the customer was slapped by the janitor?
Mm-hmm.
And I know again the answer is we don't care, but just if there are any notes about how serious the injury was, or was it just the humiliation of the slap? Or
I think it's probably fair to say that the slap didn't cause any permanent injury. So that would be a case where the emotional distress damages would have been driving the case.
This is very prescient.
I was so shocked. It is relevant. And we're recording this on April 1st, 2022. And absolutely nothing has happened involving a famous slap in the last few weeks. And I'm sure that by the time we release this podcast, which could be weeks or months from now, depending on how long it takes us to edit and fill in the filibusters, that nobody will remember. Nobody will remember any particularly culturally interesting or provocative events around a slap.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. We don't even know or care about it.
Nothing to hear here.
I mean, the thing is, like, I feel like there's been every single possible take on that whole thing.
I'm exhausted by it.
It's just like, but I'm going to go ahead and throw in one more take. This is my take.
There we go.
Here we go.
There we go.
Here's my take. Everybody needs to take. But here's the thing. The Oscars are fundamentally a totally contrived thing. It's people who make fake stuff, making fake awards to give to one another. It's 100% inauthentic, staged, scripted, planned, and canned. So anytime anything happens when it's canned, it's like, oh my God, something happened that was organic and authentic and real, and oh my God, like somebody had a real emotion. That's what I think is interesting, is that it's like it was actually real emotion between people, and it's like people are so shocked by actual real emotion and real, people reacting to stuff and letting things affect them and getting upset, and people are messy and make mistakes, and it's interesting to us. It's just like the seventh grade thing, two people like suddenly get into an argument and then everyone's circling around going, fight, 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 fight. That's basically all of America is like doing that right now. Like, oh, it's a fight. I have to pick a side. Like, how about no? But
so in that case, is the Academy liable for what happened that day? If the Baltimore Orioles are liable, is the Academy liable?
That I don't know. There could be some waivers involved. I have no idea. There's probably some contracts involved.
I'd like to see the back of that ticket.
Mm-hmm. It's yeah. Exactly. I can't tell you how many people have said that about the Academy Awards. I'd like to see the back of that ticket. Yeah. So that's a bad take. That's my bad take. My bad take is that it's bad, and all the takes are bad. And there's a hell of a lot more important things that we need to be thinking about. And that's probably why everyone's so interested. because important things are hard and hard things are boring.
But I think you make a point too with the sort of organic nature of it. It's a real truthful moment in a evening, a parade of contrived moments. And it's just like, it's amazing, right? That this actually happened in that show, right? And I think that's part of it.
I have never heard in my entire podcasting career a better transition between the law and the improv. Because I've just presented to you a parade of contrived moments, and now we're ready for something real and organic. How about it?
All right. Are you ready to make a tie?
We're going to stipulate that Gary he knows how to improvise with your money, and he's free to jump into the improv. But if Gary prefers to be a bystander and just laugh, he can do that too.
I can do it, McMahon.
Harriet, I'm really impressed with the wand that you got. It's really neat. I never saw one that was made of birch before.
Well, I just found the stick in the park and it looked special. And I thought, what if I whittle it a little bit? And as I whittled it, I started to be able to, I noticed I started having special powers.
That's amazing. I mean, the other day when you turn Mr. Jones into a frog, that was totally epic.
Well, it wasn't just entirely me. I think I whittled this birch stick in such a way that it is now starting to control my magic. The birch stick controls me.
Whoa. That explains why you've been absent so many times.
Yeah, I've been trying to get here, and then I just keep ending up someplace else.
Right. Like I thought you completely made up, when you were saying when we were doing our reports about what we did over the summer, I thought you made up the whole thing about spending 3 weeks in a Caribbean jail cell, but I'm guessing it was true.
Yeah, I was on the way there. I just did a casual flip of my wand and boom, I was in a jail cell and mostly naked.
So, Harry Potter, I have caught up to you at
last. Boof.
What is this? A legal tort?
Yes. I was trying to make you disappear, but obviously I just served you with some legal papers.
Yes.
This wand has a mind of its own.
Your muggle side is coming out, is it? Your father was a magician, but your mother was a lawyer.
Oh.
Well, you won't be able to combine that to stop my magics. You are the boy who lived, but now you die.
Hey, come back with my birch wand!
Oh, Harry Potter, don't let this happen. Oh, sorry, I was hiding behind a tree. And I'm Maximilius Locateros.
I've got handcuffs on. What is? And Miranda right in my hands? What is this?
Papa John Maximus.
What? I can feel my savings have been retracted. What? It's a legal right saying cease and desist for using the intellectual property of J.K. Rowling? What? What? This isn't a wand of magic, it's a wand of legalities. Well, it won't stop me. Brah! Perhaps you could use your legalese against the dragon. Come forth, dragon!
Oh! Oh! There's two dragons! Oh!
That's right. I have a backup just in case.
If only I could get my hand on that wand, I might be able to do something. Not quite sure what, but something.
Well, Harry, I'll try to grab it for you, but unfortunately, I'm busy wrestling this dragon over here.
Oh my God. Oh, the dragon is eating you. Oh my God, this is terrible.
No,
Somebody.
I must taste delicious. Oh, no. I don't want to be eaten alive.
Here's a rock. I'm going to throw it at the dragon. It left my hands at an obtuse angle.
Oh my goodness. Did someone get hurt? I just got out of law school, but I'm here to represent you.
I definitely need a lawyer. I was in the park and I was admiring Harry's
And you're hurt, right?
I'm bleeding from many places. My stomach, my arm, my face. I'm very bloody. And I was attacking a dragon.
So I got 3 questions for you. Do you have money?
No.
Can you afford me?
Not at all.
Okay, then I'm going to do a quick little disappearing act, and I'm going to wish you the best in your healing. Let me call you an Uber, but it's going to be on your own account.
Thank you.
You're going to be okay. Let me know if you have any friends who have injuries who would need my representation.
Thank you, lawyer magician, I think. I'm very, very
You're
ill
gonna
right
be
now.
fine.
You may have won this time. I can't remember your name, evil doer, but we'll be back one day.
It was Manning.
Members of the Baltimore Oriole Board of Directors, please just take a seat where the meeting's going to start. We're starting to see that the Baltimore Orioles nickname doesn't have the same sort of marketability as it once did, and we're going to want to change its name to something more relevant and something that sums us up more clearly to the public.
I was thinking...
Really, the Orioles? How can we do that?
Could we be the Baltimore Antifa?
How about the Baltimore Orioles? I've always thought it's a lateral shift.
I think that if we start to think about the ramifications of that name and how it's going to play with certain demographics, I think that we have to pick something that is even a bit more neutral.
Which demographics are you talking about?
Well, we want to appeal to the widest mass of people that we can in the United States. And in this current bipartisan sort of mindset that is happening here, we need something that is absolutely palatable to everybody.
How about the Baltimore Americans?
How about the Baltimore apathies?
We've some of our market research and focus groups have told us that Baltimore is apathetic towards the team already, so we don't want to keep sort of emphasizing that point.
But we're good at it.
Yes, we are good. We are good at being apathetic. We try hard at it.
Strengths, go with what people know us for.
Well,
I'd vote for it, but I just don't really have much interest.
I don't care either.
I mean, I'm kind of like, I could take it or leave it.
I mean, it would be, I don't know if it would be better than Orioles or worse, but I mean, it's an idea.
What else?
I think we could throw it in front of a focus group and they could let us know what they think about it. I mean, I've never quite known what Orioles have to do with baseball anyway.
Okay, folks, thank you for volunteering for this test group. We're just going to throw a couple of things out at you and see how you react.
Oh, wait, we're not getting paid?
I heard there was going to be a lunch.
You are going to get lunch and you are going to get paid.
Okay, is it going to be Subway or Blimpies?
Well, it's part of a secret. You're going to have to get a blind taste test this sandwich. I'm putting out the sandwich in front of each of you, and I can't tell you who the brand is. I can't tell you anything about it. But I want you to just take a couple of bites of this sandwich. And as you take a bite of the sandwich, I want you to ask yourself, the following question. Is the sandwich pretty good, acceptable, or not that bad? Pretty good, acceptable, or not that bad?
I finished the first sandwich, and I don't think the sampling was large enough for me to make that determination.
Yeah,
Is there another sandwich?
I'm going to need 3 of each before I can do the study correctly.
Are we talking about the sandwiches or the Baltimore Orioles?
Oh, we are going to be talking about the Baltimore Ball Club. And we've gotten rid of the name Orioles, but so I want you to think.
Are you thinking of calling them the Baltimore sandwiches? Because if you are, that's not. If the sandwich is any indication, it wasn't substantial.
That's true. So insubstantial, we have insubstantial as a potential descriptor of the sandwich. Not enough.
Are you suggesting we call them the Baltimore Insubstantials? Because that's a pretty good name.
No, Baltimore Insubstantials. How does the group feel about the Baltimore Insubstantials?
Not enough.
Okay. How about, does anyone have a feeling one way or another, or preference about the Baltimore?
Are you spelling that with an apostrophe?
It's NM apostrophe EH.
I like it because it's a very confusing word to read. So it would attract my attention that way, but it might take away from me watching the baseball game as I try to pronounce the word.
All right,
well, it makes more sense to me than Orioles.
Yeah. An Oriole can't even hold a bat. So I've never understood that.
I can land on one.
I mean,
I don't really care either way.
I mean, a lot of people get confused because they think it's a sandwich cookie, and they're like, I want the double stuff kind of the Oreos.
Wow. So Oriole is actually the plural of Oreo?
That's what many people have been thinking that, and that's why we've had this cease and dismiss. I'm probably telling you too much as part of this focus group, but yes, there's been a cease and desist letter from the Nabisco company, and apparently I guess I can just be totally transparent with you folks. We need to choose a different name, and the board feels strongly that it needs to be something that conveys apathy. So maybe we can just discuss words. When you think of Baltimore baseball,
No wafers. No.
Did Baltimore baseball bring, does the word apathy mean something to you? If the Baltimore apathetics.
Wow. It's very close to the Oakland Athletics, but...
Which they are, and we're not. But,
what if we just put a series of consonants in a random generator and just came up with the Baltimore Bun?
Oh, Baltimore Bun?
Ballistics. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say, sir?
Ballistics.
Ballistics. Baltimore ballistics.
Ballistics. Baltimore ballistics.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to be saying that the rest of the day.
That's another word that I would just stare at for a long time, wondering, like, are those words in or is that an anagram for something? And again, I think I'd probably just miss the game.
That seems to be what a lot of people in Baltimore are doing these days, but
Cut to a hospital room across town. Are you sure Mr. Grimsley's going to be able to make it today? I don't want to take him away from his busy sports schedule just to visit me.
Jimmy, I know I'm your doctor and also your nurse and your father, but
Yeah, Dad.
Mr. Grimsley's
Dr.
not,
Dad.
and I know that you've,
This is Dr. Dad.
and I know that you're very close to death. and Make-A-Wish has let you down so many times. But Mr. Grimsley is not going to be able to make it today, because he's in a court of law. Because
Knock.
oh, there's
Hey,
someone
kid.
at the door.
Aren't you Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm Jimmy. Can you come closer? It's hard to see. My eyes are failing.
Grimsley, aren't you supposed to be in a court of law?
I ran out of that court when I heard that Jimmy was on his deathbed. Do you think I would
Grimsley.
let you die? I mean, you're not going to die. Don't you worry, Jimmy. You're not going to die. Not as long as I'm here. But I spent 40
Mr. Grimsley, please stop touching that equipment. I'm a trained professional and a parent.
I don't give a damn. Not when his life is on the line. I am here to make him happy. Jimmy,
I've never.
let me tell you
Mr.
something.
Grimsley, it's such an honor to meet you. And you've done so much for me already. I can't ask you for more. I just
You're the
can't.
bravest kid I've ever seen. And let me tell you something. You're not going to die in here today. I know this is your 6th heart transplant, but today you are going to have this final operation and you are going to be the astronaut you always wanted to be.
Oh my God, his blood pressure is improving. His heart rate is improving. His platelet count has gone up.
Jimmy. Come on.
Mr. Grimsley, can you do me a favor?
Anything for you, Jimmy.
I know you have a big game today.
Yes.
Can you please throw an 80-mile-an-hour fastball at a drunken heckler and maybe take him out in the head or his spleen? Please?
You know what, Jimmy? It's going to be a 90-mile ball straight to the head. I don't care
Bless
if
you.
you dies if it saves your life. Do you hear me?
Bless you, Mr. Grimsley. I think that's why God put you on this planet. Cut to the ballpark.
Hey, Grimsley, you're a goof. You're a goof, get it? With a capital G.
Hey,
Stop it right now or I'm going to get you.
Well, you don't like the word goof, Grimsley?
hey, Grimsley, you're slightly unattractive.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, Grimsley, you're a screwball. Looks like a curveball.
Why I oughta.
Hey, Grimsley, you're
mad.
only moderately intelligent.
Oh, I'm about to snap. If I hear one more outrageous insult, I'm going to lose it.
Yeah, way to grip your fastball.
Hey, Grimsley, you're a mediocre ball player.
Oh, I'm just getting warmed up here. When
Hey,
I get mad, somebody.
what, did you forget to iron your uniform? Oh my God.
I'm just about at my breaking point.
Hey, Grimsley, are you like a vegetarian?
Oh, God damn it. You are so insulting.
Yeah, your socks look like really long socks.
Oh, I'm gonna lose it.
Hey, Grimsley, I bet you have trouble finding good parking when you go shopping.
Oh, this crowd is really getting me.
Hey, Grimsley, I made the operation and I came to watch the game. Way to go, Grimsley.
No, don't say anything, kid.
What? Grimsley, I'm over here.
Shut up, kid. Grimsley's about to break.
2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile.
Hey, Grimsley, you overpaid for car insurance.
Cut to 2 minutes later. Kid, are you all right? Are you all right, kid? You just took a fastball to the face. Right where your incision starts.
This is the greatest. This was the greatest day of my life.
Oh no. Grimsley, you first saved the kid, and now you killed him.
Well, shucks. You know, they shouldn't have heckled me to the point of taking out a life. I was just trying to save that kid and mind my business, and these hecklers, they made me do it. I'm not responsible. It's the ball team. They should never have let me do it.
And the moral of the story is
Never meet your heroes.
never meet your heroes.
meet your heroes.
I didn't mean to let you down.
I gotta write that down.
Never meet your heroes. Well, thank you guys for that. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad I feel like we learned something too from the improv, and that's that heroes and villains are certainly the same. I feel like we've all grown as people. All right, we're going to do one quick promo for one of my friends. Great podcast I want you to hear. And then we're going to come back and play Laying Down the Pretense, the game that everybody wins. Welcome back to Laying Down the Pretense. The rules are relatively simple. I ask questions and then award points based upon whether or not I agree with the answers that are received. The answers may be given by each contestant in any amount of time, and my award of points is totally arbitrary. Question number 1 goes to Mr. Gary Pia. Gary Pia is a returning champion of Laying Down the Pretense because he's never been pretentious in his life. Gary, if animals could talk, which would be the rudest?
The rudest animal would be a hippopotamus.
Defend your answer.
Because you can't see what they're thinking. They don't articulate it well. But when they come out with it, you know how they're looking at you.
That is absolutely correct. I'm awarding you 100 points, Gary. Gary's jumping out to a quick lead. Next question is going to go to Jack. Jack, is cereal soup?
No, it's not, because it's served cold. Gazpacho is in a category of its own. I would not include that soup as well, nor would I include chicken dumplings.
Well, as any good judge will tell you, you can always distinguish other precedent. Gazpacho has been distinguished from cereal, and so your answer is correct. 100 points, Jack. Well done. Woo! The next question goes to Doug. Doug, how many chickens would it take to kill an elephant?
Well, I think it just takes one chicken, and it doesn't have to be an especially big chicken. We all know that elephants are notoriously afraid of mice because of the myopic nature of the elephant's eye. They often confuse mice for chickens, and therefore one small chicken can cause a whole herd of elephants to panic and therefore commit mass suicide.
That's a great answer. 100 points to you, Doug. We have a 3-way tie for first place. Pia coming in.
Man, I really got to catch up here. Okay.
Pia, the question to you is, in which sport should a mandatory amount of alcohol be added?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to go with shot putting.
Shot putting is a great answer. Also 100 points. We have a 4-way tie for first, folks. This has never happened in the history of Laying Down the Pretense. A 4-way tie for first place. We're going to have to do a tiebreaker round, folks. Each of them have been awarded 100 points, full credit for their answers. This is unprecedented. The next question, randomly...
Can I just go back really quick?
Mm-hmm.
Because I understand why I didn't need to defend my answer, because
it's so clearly right. But if you want to give us a little more background, we'd love to hear it.
I don't, but just the hilarity of
no, there was only one right answer. Yeah. That's the thing. I have the answers here. Shot putting. If you had said any other sport, for example, crew or windsurfing, those would have been wrong. It would have been wrong. Shot putting is the one and only sport in which it's important to add mandatory alcohol. And this question randomly goes to Gary. Gary, would you rather have no nose or no arms?
No nose.
Because?
I can't think of a good reason why, but it stinks.
That's the correct answer. It stinks to not have a nose. That's the right answer. And 100 points go to you, Gary. I didn't think you were going to get it. I thought you were going to be stumped, but you did.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to get it. I thought he was going to be stumped.
Oh.
As my apologies to everyone that offended. I sincerely apologize. It's not intentional. Next question is to Jack. Do you think cavemen had nightmares about cave women?
I would have to say no, they didn't, because nightmares were not invented until the early 17th century. Up until then, it was just sort of like zonk out.
That's right, and we all know that nightmares were invented by Sir Mayor.
Yeah.
Sir Mayor of the Round Table.
He was playing poker. He was playing poker one day, and he realized he wanted to get his mind off of the cards. So he had his first nightmare. It was night that they were playing the poker game. So it became dubbed a nightmare. That's why today we call it Nightmare.
100 points.
Weirdly enough.
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So informative.
And we're learning this
It's the
is
same game with the Duke of Sandwich.
That's right. Exactly. That's why Jack has the middle name Wikipedia. Jack Wikipedia Mosshammer is well known, and you can just ask him any random question, and he will give you a peer-reviewed, crowdsourced answer.
100% legal.
Yeah, absolutely. Doug, next question's to you. Who's a better roommate, a goat or a bird?
Well, a goat, especially a mountain goat, because they always find a nice little corner out of the way to hang out.
Correct. 100 points to you, Doug. And we have a three-way tie. Pia, if you're going to also tie for first, here's your chance.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
What is the worst or most annoying catchphrase?
Oh my god. Are you ready? I mean, I know you guys already know it. You ready? It is what it is. Oh my god.
It is what it is.
Yes.
It is the worst and most. It is not only the worst, it is also the most annoying. It is what it is. And what
At
it
the end of
is
the day, I think she's right.
is a transitive verb, is what it is. So that is the worst and most annoying catchphrase. Thank you all for playing. We have a four-way tie. First time on Laying Down the Pretense ever. Congratulations to
Nailed it.
Pia, Gary,
Yeah.
Jack, and Doug. That's our show, folks. Thank you so much for listening to Laying Down the Law. All you accountants, go answer the questions. Answer 5 easy questions. Get your CE credits. And for those of you who aren't accountants, you were able to skip the filibuster if I put one in, or if I didn't put one in, you got to listen to the whole thing. Thank you very much to our guests, Jack, Doug, Gary, and Pia.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.